Casey, you got a pen? Everybody's got one.
We'll go ahead and get started with the workshop. Number one, discuss school trips.
We have Union County High School, 15 students to Big Ridge State Park for the chapter development and training for officers, July 26th through 28th. And the sponsors are, I'm not sure, John Puget and Bailey Letitia Licata.
Who is she?
She's one of our
A new
teachers.
teacher?
Yeah.
Oh, my. Okay, number two, budget amendments and transfers in the director's monthly report and ours.
In your packet, we have budget amendments. We'll start with page 103, which we're starting some of our cleanup amendments, transferring monies in the budget lines where they are needed. And also, in addition to our budget, $3,000 that we received from our Tennessee Risk Management for our safety grant, and also our interest recovery that we received from Tennessee Risk Management. Any questions about one? No, I'll go on to the next page. We received additional funding for Title Subfund 101, additional targeted support and improvement in the amount of $175,000. We'll bring that into the budget for instructional supplies and staff development. Finally, on page 3, I'm sorry, at the top of that, it should say 177 capital projects. In going through the budgeting process, I saw that the track and turf needed to be reclassified to site development rather than building development or improvement, since that's actually not a building that we're building, it's the track and field. So we're reclassifying that. We're asking to enter into the budget, sufficient budget for purchasing 2 buses. We know that there's a 120-day lead time on buses. If we don't put them on order now, they're not going to have them in time for school starting in August. So we need to go ahead and put that into the budget, knowing that we're not going to be spending that money into the next fiscal year. So we're asking to enter that into the budget. And also an additional $25,000 for a fence around the track. Once it's completed, we're not sure whether that's going to happen in this fiscal year, but in the event that it does, we need to have the funding to pay for the fence. Any questions about capital projects?
On the buses, we're not going to pay for them out of this budget.
No, we have to issue the PO, but we'll keep the PO open and transfer that to the next fiscal year. As I stated, it takes about 120 days for the buses to be made.
How many buses we have? New ones that we bought.
How many new ones?
Yeah.
We have 3 new ones.
These are like 5. What's the oldest, the new one we bought?
2 years.
2 years. How's it hold
The
up?
first year, we bought one, and then last year, this beginning of this year, we had 2. It's holding up fine. It's getting miles on it. Everybody wants to use it.
How many miles are you going to run them up to?
We'll run them. We can run them 18 years unlimited miles, and if it's under 200,000, we can extend it and run at above 18 years to 200,000.
Any other questions regarding the budget amendments? Not in the director's report. I mentioned that we have not yet moved the money from 141 to 177 based on the recommendations for the fund balance policy. We have written check this month. We'll not show you the reports until next month for the $3,487,056 that we're transferring to the capital budget. Any questions about that?
Now we go to, what? Discuss contracts. And Dyer.
We are not prepared to discuss the script order or the debit curling at this time. We hope to have that prepared for you next month. The HPS contract is a contract that we executed 3 years ago. They are the service that we use to purchase or to bid out our purchase of food service, food program. Morton Foods is our supplier, and HPS are bidders, the overseers of those bids. We're asking to extend that contract for another year. And then the Grace Rehabilitation contract is for our physical and occupational therapy for special needs. This contract is an annual contract that we've used for several years. The cost has gone up somewhat because we've added about 20 students to our services. Any questions about those contracts?
Number 4, discuss TSBA required workshop. Dr. Mincy.
And Dr. Carter might want to speak to this too, but it's scheduled for the afternoon of Friday, June 7th and Saturday, June the 8th. And if it's like it was the last time, it'll be over half a day Saturday. And it's at the Hyatt Regency, downtown Knoxville. The new one, not the old one. And
Do we have a start time on that?
we do not at this moment.
Same place as last year?
That's all I have on it. Do you want to?
Well, the only thing I would add to it is that Friday afternoon, we'll have our central office staff discussing, and the discussion will be around the strategic plan and the operations of the schools. So it gives you all an opportunity to meet with and talk to central office staff, and they have the opportunity to discuss their part on the strategic plan. That's all I got.
Okay. Number 5, discuss director of schools and board evaluation. Dr. Mincy.
You will be relieved or maybe upset to know I'm not ready to discuss that with you yet. I haven't tabulated the ones you all have turned in.
I'm relieved, Doctor.
Thank you, sir. I thought you might be.
Number 6, discuss TSBA recommended updates to board policies. Due for approval on second reading at this meeting. 4.701, maintaining test data and security. 1.803, tobacco-free schools. 4.209, alternative credit options. 4.603, promotion and retention. Dr. Mincy.
Okay, this is due for your approval on second reading, and nothing's changed since you approved it last month on first reading. So unless any of you have any questions, that's about all on that one.
Okay. Number 7, discuss board policy 6.204, attendance of non-resident students. Dr. Mincy.
Okay, this one is a policy revision that Ms. Patterson wants us to present. And she says we need to delete the highlighted wording. And one thing that's deleted is non-resident students must make application at least 2 weeks prior to the first day of school. She would like us to take that one out. And that's in the non-resident student section. And in the out-of-zone student section, it's the same thing. Out-of-zone students must make application at least 2 weeks prior to the first day of school. And she would also like us to delete the section that says out-of-zone kindergarten students requesting out-of-zone must register at the zone school and receive an application from the principal at the zone school. The signature of the principal of the zone school is required to verify kindergarten registration. And everything else would stay the same. And I put this on the agenda for you to approve on first reading tonight because it's so short and simple. So if you all are agreeable to that, we'll ask you to approve it on first reading on Ms. Patterson's recommendation.
Yes. And the reason behind some of this is because this began this school year, and we saw that there were opportunities were out of county, our board policy said it had to be done 2 weeks prior to school beginning, but there are certain times throughout the year that students from other school systems after school has started wanted to make an application, and our board policy didn't allow us to do that. So it was an oversight on our part, and we wanted to clean that up a little bit.
Number 8, discuss fiscal year 20 consolidated application for federal funds. Dr. Mincy.
Okay, every year when we do the consolidated application for federal funds, it has to be approved by the board. And lots of times you don't know exactly what you're approving, so I've made you a summary of it, and it's on your Chromebook under this dark blue. But I'll read you the highlights of it. The Title I allocation for this coming year is proposed to be, and it changes sometimes, but it's at this point proposed to be $1,112,534, and that is a decrease of $29,385 from last fiscal year. The only change that we propose in this is there is one paraprofessional position that we will not be renewing this coming year, and we will replace that position with a half of a credit recovery teacher at the high school, and the general fund will pay the other half, but everything else remains the same. We shuffled around some of the paraprofessionals, the number that federal pays at the schools, but what federal doesn't pay, general will, so we don't lose any actual paraprofessionals except that one position that we're not renewing. And there's information there about what the exact set-asides are per school based on the number of students that are direct certified for poverty and the amount of the school allocations. Title II is for teacher quality. The allocation for that is $139,296. That is also a decrease from $16,911 from last year. And nothing has changed there. The only salary we pay off Title II is for the district-wide curriculum and professional development coordinator. Title III, we only get $807.07 this year. And since we don't generate $10,000 on our own, we are in a consortium with Granger County. They're the consortium leader. And it decreased by half, just about. It decreased $734.88. But the reason that it decreased so much is because we had so many students test out of the EL program last year. So that's a good thing, actually. Title IV is well-rounded, safe, and healthy students. The preliminary allocation on that one's $82,467, and that is an increase from last year, $2,797.71. We use that to pay for 1/4 of one of the music teachers, the one at Sharps Chapel and Big Ridge, and we pay for 1/4 of the district-wide social worker, and we have a small amount budgeted for professional development for STEM activities in the classroom for the teachers that do that. Title V is the rural and low-income school program. Its preliminary allocation is $75,482.08, and that was an increase of $8,632.01. And basically, that title is kind of a buffer to the others. We can use it for Title I-like activities. Title II, we chose not to use it for anything Title III or Title IV. With that money, we're going to pay for one teacher assistant at Sharps Chapel and one district-wide family and community engagement interventionist. The same thing we do this year, nothing changed there. But what I want to kind of point out to you is that I've been tracking how the preliminary allocations increase and decrease over the fiscal years from 2016 to 2020. There has been a decrease across all the titles of $182,876.81. So the federal funds are slowly basically dropping. There was an increase one year, but the overall they decrease. And that's based on state allocations. They allocate it to us based on a formula, and it just is what it is. IDEA Part B, they're also on the consolidated application you'll be approving. Their preliminary allocation is $1,103,455, and that's an increase of $127,182 from last year, the current year that we're in. And IDEA preschool, their preliminary allocation is $24,010, and that's an increase of $240 from last fiscal year. So when you put together all of the federal and the special education IDEA funds on this consolidated application, you will be approving the receipt and spending of $2,538,051.15.
Thank you, sir.
Any of you have any questions over that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, number 9, discuss bids and Dyer.
I've asked Dr. Carter to speak to that. I know it's a camera bid that we're using the safety grant. And he knows more specific about what-
Originally, we had it on the bid last month, but we were under the impression that they had a statewide contract, the group that we were going to work with, and they actually were not. So it's over $25,000, but it's to upgrade and improve and additions of camera systems within all the schools. It is, the money is coming from the safety grant that the governor put into the budget this year. That money, we've already been approved to carry that money over. It's the process of getting bids and getting all this information, doing the surveys. It takes time to get all that stuff done, to find out what the need is, and then have vendors come in and evaluate and see what we need. So we're hoping to do the bids and maybe do some of the installation of the cameras, adding more cameras outside and higher quality cameras inside the buildings. And once again, those cameras are streamed to 911, and we should be applauding our sheriff's department. And Miss Marty, who is here today, works at the 911 office, and Andrew can verify that we had someone to get into one of our schools the last month or two. I got the phone call around 4 o'clock in the morning, and we were alerted because the 911 office has our cameras up at all times, and they were the ones who spotted this. So we appreciate what the sheriff's department does for us. But we just need to bid out these cameras so that we can move forward on that project.
Number 10, discuss final budget for 2019-20. Dr. Carter and Dyer.
Well, Miss Ann, I don't know which direction you want to go. There's, from last month to this month, there's not been a huge significant change in the budget. We did take out the Chromebooks of $80,000 and $50,000 on transportation, but we bring to you a balanced budget, and I'm not sure if there's information that you all would like to know after having the opportunity to look over that budget, but that is the primary changes. I don't know, there may be some other significant or insignificant changes throughout the budget, but as far as I know, that's the major changes that we made to the budget from last month to this month.
And it's based on the April estimate that we have, so the revenue from the BET may change, but we use the hard numbers that we received for the April estimate to estimate the revenue. With that revenue, we move Chromebooks into capital projects so that we could present a balanced budget, and that $80,000 is in the capital projects.
Yes,
For 9 months.
and we do anticipate those numbers going up.
But in the event they don't.
We're ready. It's very difficult. I want to do a couple of things. I want to commend the entire office at Miss Ann's, her entire staff, because you have to understand that they do the county budget, they do our budget, they do the highway department, the sheriff's department, they do all these budgets. So if I walk into the office, as I have done, and said, I think I want to change this, when she's got the entire thing completely done, I know that she doesn't like it, but she doesn't let me know that she doesn't like it. And I appreciate all the hard work that goes into that, because there's many times that I go in there and she's got county officials in there, she's got the highway department in there, and I know what her life is like from February until this date. And I really do appreciate all the time and energy and effort that goes into this. She actually takes that BEP formula and breaks out the virtual school and us. That is not something that's an easy process to go through. The BEP formula itself is a difficult thing to work through. So I really do appreciate their office and everything they do. We really should send them like a fruit basket or something.
We appreciate your acknowledgement. I have a great deputy that I would do this job. I told her yesterday I'm leaving with her, that I depend heavily on Melissa and her help, and everybody else just get on top of things. Great asset. But I appreciate you recognizing the effort of the office.
And it's not just one in the office, it's all the office. But you're right, Missy does so much. And if you go in and Miss Ann happens to be at the courthouse or something, she can pretty much answer any question, and she's pretty much on top of everything. But we certainly do appreciate that office and all that they do, and always underappreciated and underthanked too, I think sometimes.
Well, I personally think it's the best thing that's ever happened to Union County. Anything about it, I mean, there are school terminations. You all got in there and found out wondered why, how we do what we've done. But she kind of proved to the county that this is what, how good this Union County school system is, and how close we stayed on budget. So I really want to thank you, because I think you meant the world in this county, your whole team.
142, Dr. Mincy has already given you the highlights, on the federal programs and process. So beginning on page 19, this page 26 is 142, all the way to about federal revenue check, federal program. On page 143, we have central cafeteria budget. Enough for you thinking about their budget is the revenue coming from the last 3 years. Just to let's back when we first acquired the funds, it was a negative fund balance. And in the last 3 years, Mary has challenged to spend her money because she has more than 3 months worth of fund balance. And she's been strategic about it, buying capital equipment that needed to be in facilities, and has looked at salaries, and this budget has increased salaries to where they're more comparable to our custodian scale. And in that, of course, you have a balanced budget, and we are reducing the fund balance, but we did that intentionally because we have met to meet the demand of the federal program that we don't have in excess of the fund balance. Following that is our TNBA budget. We anticipate their revenue being roughly $8.4 million. We're programming that $8.4 million into their budget. It is also a balanced budget. On page 31 is the final budget, capital projects 177, and all the projects that we anticipate completing next year. We will see the first practice in this budget as well as it is in the current year, as well as the buses. Again, because we don't know when those projects will finish, but if they finish this year, we have it in our budget this year. If not, we'll have it in our budget next year.
And it bears repeating, the amount on capital projects, that is not the true amount that we'll be spending next year. That has some of the projects of this year and some of, so just because we don't know which fiscal year they will end out in, So you can go through and see the ones that we have actually added to those projects.
We're actually adding 791,000 of new projects into the budget, although it looks like we're adding, or requesting 2 million.
Mhm.
A significant portion of those 4 cities, curb and track, is two most significant projects that have to be completed yet this year. And we're not certain whether it will be. Any questions about those budgets as they're presented?
Number 11, discuss naming Union County High School softball field. Brad Griffey.
Right, thank you. I wanted to bring before the board tonight, this has been on my mind for several months, about naming the Union County Lady Patriot softball field after Coach Lance Lake. Came to me this year, began to think of the things that Lance has done, not to mention the win-loss record that Lance would have. But last night, he finished his 17th year as the Lady Patriot head coach. He's been to the region many times, and went on to the state. To say the time and effort that he puts in with the field is awesome. The field is always pristine. Some of you may know that each year we work all the UT home football games, and whatever that concession stand makes, the softball program gets a percentage of that. Lance is there every game, start to finish, and he treats the girls. I can't tell you how good he treats the girls. They have the best of everything. He sees to it that they have the best of everything. I've seen him at baptizings, social functions for his girls. He takes care of them. If they need a ride, if they need anything, I'm sure he's bought lunches, dinners for his girls. And so looking at all of that and watching Lance and how he does, I thought it would be only fitting that we bring it up to name the field after him. So I hope that you all can find it to do that. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Number,
I'll do that.
Okay.
You want to name it or you want me to just do it?
Yeah, go right ahead, Dr. Carter.
Number 12, Mr. Gibbs asked us to have this placed on the agenda, and this week he called to say he may not be at the meeting this week. And so I asked him how he would like me to present this, that I wanted to start the discussion. So his question was around, are we at a place with the buses that we own that we can begin to provide transportation for some of our athletic events? And what I told him, and what I want you all to know, we're not going to act on this tonight, but I want this to be a starting point for a conversation. This year, we were attempting to take our football team just because their district is in Upper East Tennessee. And the amount of money that they have to spend on transportation is between $8,000 and $12,000 a year. That eats into his budget. And so we were going to attempt to do that, but we didn't have the spare buses to be able to do that. But I told the coach, I said, you need to work on getting some of your coaches CDL license. So in the event, because it's not just buses we're low on, we don't have drivers either. So after we buy these 2 buses, if we have 2 spare buses, moving forward, if we can do that, we already have plans to do that. But my thoughts on it are, what do we do when we have 2 or 3 events, 2 or 3 sports that are on the same night that are away, and we only have 1 or 2 buses? So is it first come, first serve, or how do you determine who is going to have that bus for that night is one problem. And the other problem is, do we say this is only for the high school or high school and middle school? How do we handle those sports such as golf that have 3 members on it? Do we take one of our buses for 3 members. So those are the questions. I just want you all to think about how this could look in the future. But our intention is, especially with football, but for the sports, if we have buses available and we have drivers available, we prefer that we take them. All would be out is the wear and tear of the bus and the fuel for the bus. So, but those are the things I talked to Mr. Gibbs about, and I want you all to consider as we move forward with this. Lenny, what's your thoughts on it?
Same concerns. If we have the equipment to do it, we're all for it. It's just making sure we can outline who we're going to provide for and we don't over obligate ourselves.
And Ms. Stackhouse?
Remember Title IX.
Well, that was in the back of my head when I say if we have 2 going out. Title IX says that all boys and girls sports are treated equally. So you can't be taking the football team and saying no to the soccer team. You can't be saying, well, the boy, this wouldn't be the case, but you couldn't say the boys basketball team, we've only got enough room for the boys, and leave the cheerleaders and the girls off. So those are all things that you weigh into this.
And softball.
Yes.
If you got a van, could you be able, would we be able to take the team that's got just 3, 6, 9, 10, I don't know the rest of the team, how many's on it or something?
Lenny can speak to vans.
State law says that you cannot haul more than 10 students in a vehicle, or it has to be a school bus. So if we were to get a van, it would have to be less than 10 passengers, and most of our sports, with the exception of maybe tennis or golf, I think would have 10 members or more. So we could do that, but we would be limited in who we could transport.
Well, I'm just wondering if on a smaller amount, if we could.
Also, the CDL license requirement isn't there with the van, is it?
No.
But it wouldn't be a bad idea.
No, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to say you have it, and
You could require it, even though it's.
I'd love to require every teacher to have a CDL license. They would never, ever want for another bus driver again. But that was the conversation. Because he wasn't here, I still wanted to have the conversation. And for you all to be thinking about those things moving forward. Because starting out next year, we should have 2 more buses. And I'm hopeful that we can help transport the football team, because that is a huge drain on their revenues. And it's just because our district is in Upper East Tennessee.
Okay. Number 13, discuss action regarding ground lease issue, Dr. Carter.
Approximately a month ago, Andrew Reed called me and asked me if the board had changed anything regarding the Historical Society and a guardrail that had been placed there, and because he had missed a meeting. And I said, not to my knowledge, I don't know of anything. Why? And he said, well, there's a guardrail up now. And I said, well, I'll go take a look at it. And then I also sent pictures to Ms. Stackhouse because she was involved in this whole process. And I'll let Andrew go from there, if he will, speak to this and your thoughts on it.
Well, we had met, I guess, looking back about a year or so ago, met on this issue about them wanting to put a guardrail up. We actually met up there, looked at the property. But I was under the assumption we agreed not to put any guardrail up, leave it as is. They worked together on, I guess, the scheduling of vehicles coming in, a joint relationship between the 2 parties involved. So I was coming up Manual Highway, having to look over and notice the guardrail up. And that's why I contacted Jimmy Carter, wanted to know if the board had changed its position or if there's any discussion. Because my understanding is that it's school property and that no modifications can be made without the approval of this board. So I called Dr. Carter, informed me that no discussions have been made. So here we are, we have a board property that we took action or agreed not to take action on, that we have a guardrail up. One, I think that's disrespectful to this board after we made a decision not to do that, to go around. Then also, I think there's some legality issues, according to Dr. Carter and the Stackhouse, about there's some conflicting surveys out there. I think we need to address this issue, make a decision on that guardrail. In my opinion, it went up and needs to come back down until this is resolved.
And we haven't seen two different surveys. You spoke to the gentleman at the hardware store, and he had indicated at that time that he had a survey that was somewhat different from the one that the Historical Society had purchased.
Correct.
And the school board itself has not actually had a survey of that property during this entire time, but the Historical Society brought in an outside entity to do the survey, and they paid for that. And so that was one of the conflicts that was discussed, is there may be two different opinions on where that line is.
Also, you're blocking off access to the residents behind the building, and I don't know what the legality is to that if you're blocking someone's access to their residence.
Well, I think this is, in a legal term, a big fat problem. The tenant did not have the right to put up the guardrail on the board's property, pure and simple. And I think the board has the right to instruct the tenant to take it down, and or the board has the right to just go and take it down. I don't know how the tenant made that decision, whether it was an executive unilateral decision or whether their board decided to do that. But the ground lease does not give them the right to make that kind of improvement.
Well, what do we need to do now? Get you to send them a letter to take it down?
We can do that. We can do that. You know, one of the challenges of the ground lease is that it extends until the year 2066, which I reminded Dr. Carter today. He and I will both be deceased. Which is a sobering
Yes.
reality. But
I was looking forward to renewing that lease.
But there could be situations, I think, where we could determine that this tenant is in default under that lease. And maybe that would begin to give us an opportunity to think about a way to declare that tenant in default, renegotiate that lease, and go to a 4-year lease, which, you know, under current law, where there's not supposed to be any kind of contract that is longer than 4 years. And now, frankly, I haven't looked back to see if there were limits back in 91, but, you know, 110-year ground lease is kind of unusual. But, I'm concerned that under the terms of the ground lease, the tenant is required to make us, the lessor, a named insured. Ordinarily, when that's happening correctly, the named insured would get notice, just like the tenant gets notice. You get notice every year from the insurance company that that policy has been renewed, or that policy needs to be renewed. To our knowledge, we have not been getting any notices. That is a signal to me that we are not named on that insurance policy as an additional named insured. If that is true, then this tenant is in material default on the lease. We could declare the lease in material default and terminate it, and start all over again. But I do think they need to be instructed to either take it down, or we just go and take it down, whichever is your pleasure.
Yes, who's responsible for, I guess, fixing it back to the way it was? I mean, obviously you got holes where a guardrail has went down. I mean, we instruct them to repair it.
Well, once you take the guardrail down, won't we be returning it to the condition it
He's talking
was?
about the holes in the ground, I think.
Oh, now the holes in the ground. Well, they've damaged our property, and they should be fixing that too. It was a bit of hubris there.
What do you recommend we start at? Getting you to write them a letter and tell them to take it down and fix,
If you
repair the parking
authorize
lot?
me to do that, then that's what I will do.
That'll be a starting point, right?
Yeah, give them however many days to take it down that is your pleasure, whether it's 10 business days or 20 or 30 or.
But it didn't take 10 very long to put it
No.
up, because I drove by and there it was. So
Yeah.
So if it didn't take long to put it up, it wouldn't take long to take it down.
Yeah, I think we need to give them about 10 days to take it down.
That would be my thought. I mean, I wouldn't want to, drag feet on.
And I talked to Greg Dyer on next door, and, and he's not mad at the school board or nothing. He just said, he said, I thought we had an agreement. And they
Well,
actually,
look back at the minutes, of that day we were all out there. And I mean, it's pretty clear to me that
we all agreed on it.
we agreed to frankly do nothing. And that was the idea.
Well, they went over just recently and got him to sign a paper where they could park on his property. Not long ago.
You mean in front of his store or on the other side?
All in there. Oh, there was a bunch of them parked over.
And I don't
But they
know
do
what
every
the
time they have a big
implication
event, 'cause they
is.
don't
I
have
haven't
enough
measured
parking.
that space between the guardrail and the wall of the building. Is it wide enough for a fire truck?
No.
See? Oh
No.
my God. I've driven by there. To my view, it looked narrow, but
It is narrow.
That's where my issue is. I mean, you're blocking entrances
To those-
to residents or
In the
apartments
back.
behind it. So
Right.
if you have no,
Can't drive
you
nothing
can't
around
get any
through it.
emergency vehicle back there. So if you have
This far.
a fire, any type of medical emergency, anything like that, the
So
emergency
that's a
vehicles
real
cannot
problem.
access the back of that building.
well, the letter could just tell them to take it down
If
forthwith
that is the line,
and
why
not
did
give
they
them
build so
any
close
time at
to
all,
it? It's,
which means
Good question.
now. I mean, if the letter
And did
says
they surrender
forthwith,
some
it
of our
means,
property? What if they did it short of the property
Immediately.
line? They've
and
established a
perhaps
property
that's what the
line.
letter ought to say,
Yeah,
Line
agreed.
all the way to the building.
because
We
of
just
this
surrendered
emergency
Yeah.
vehicle
15
issue.
feet.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I like the word forthwith, it's fun to
Yeah.
write.
You're gonna get the opportunity.
what about inasmuch?
Huh?
Inasmuch.
In as much as you have done something you shouldn't have ought to have done, take it down forthwith.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding, yeah.
That's right, notwithstanding.
Okay.
I do want to ask, did the board want to act on the insurance issue and the lease
Yes. I
as
do.
well? Because she would need to know that if that's what your intentions
I
are.
do, don't you, Andrew?
Then I think what I would recommend there is let me send two different letters. I can send them at the same time, but I'd like the takedown forthwith letter to stand on its own. And then the, oh, by the way, what's going on with the insurance letter to stand on its own.
Okay.
Okay. I guess we're ready for the addendum. Number 1, discuss revision of board policy 5.10, vacations and holidays. Dr. Carter.
We have a line in our policy that says that you must, and this is a recent policy, and it followed our practice, is the best I can remember. But the line says that you have to accrue 6 vacation days before you can take a vacation day. And of course, we have some new custodians, and they were inquiring about how many days they had and that type of thing. And so they were reminded of our board policy. And their question was, if I've earned that day, why can I take it? I believe if we were going to do that policy, I think at the board office, we should have said, you, after 6 months, you will have earned 6, but not until, if we wanted a probationary period. And if that was the intent of it, I think that was the intent of it, as that's how we should have put it. But we didn't tell our people up front that that was a sort of probation period. And so I spoke to Ms. Stackhouse about it, and she was of the opinion, similar to I was, that if you earn something, we can't withhold that from you. And that we just strike that out rather than go through the process of having a policy that we're not following at this time and then say, well, we'll get the word out and do all that. So I'm fine with striking that out of our policy.
session.
Pretty much.
That is the end of the workshop. Let's all stand to do the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gerald, would you lead us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, again, we come thank you for another beautiful day. Thank you for all that you do for us. Thank you for all the people that you hear that they give their service just to see our school system run and do better. We just want to be thankful for everything that you do for us. And again, we just want to thank you for our director of school. We thank you for each board member. And we just want to give everybody credit for where it's due. Thank you, Lord, for just being there when nobody else was. Amen.
I'll call this meeting to order of the Union County Board of Education. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 3, the Union County Education Association.
They are not here with
Not
us
here.
tonight.
Number 4, special recognition and announcements.
We have none, other than our workshop on the 7th.
Okay, number 5, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion second, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 6, is there a motion to approve the budget amendments and transfers?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all in favor say aye.
Roll call, please.
Roll call.
Danny Wayne Collins,
For.
Mr. Coffey,
4.
Mr. Griffey,
4.
Mr. Moore,
4.
Mr. Reed, and Gerald Smith.
4.
Motion carried. Number 7, we're doing what, 2 of these?
The
HPS and Grace. Okay, is there a motion to approve these 2 contracts?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 8, is there a motion to approve taking bids on the cameras?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion, a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 9, is there a motion to approve naming the Union County High School softball field?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion, a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
No.
Motion carried though, didn't
You do, the motion is to name it in honor of Lance Lay,
it?
right?
Yes, yes, sir.
I just think we do everything on top of something.
Okay. Number 10, is there a motion to approve on second reading the updates to the board policies 4.701 and 1.803, 4.209, and 4.603?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 11, is there a motion to approve on first reading the update of the board policy of 6.204, attendance of non-resident students?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 12, is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020 consolidated application for federal funds?
Motion.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Now, 13. Is there a motion to approve, action regarding the ground lease issue?
Sounds like they'd be worried.
Well, and let me ask for one piece of clarification. What I'd like to do is send them a letter. Propose we send them a letter, tell them to remove the guardrail forthwith and fill in the holes. And if they fail to do so, that the board will do so and send them a bill.
That's what I was going to ask in this motion, if we can do it. They have 10 days. After 10 days, we'll remove it and they'll be responsible for it.
We can do that too. So tell them to do it forthwith, but if it's not, that at the expiration of 10 days, we will do it and send them a bill. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
And we need to put in the same motion about the insurance.
No, well, if you want to, but I thought I'd do two different letters.
Okay.
So they're voting on doing both actions though.
Both actions, just by two different letters.
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion to do this?
I'll make
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Uh,
Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Number 1 on the addendum, is there a motion to approve the first reading of revision of board policy on 5.301 vacations and holidays?
Motion.
Is there a second?
so.
Got a motion second? All in favor say aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the final 2019-20 budget?
Motion.
Is there a second?
second.
You need a roll call.
We should.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Collins.
For.
Mr. Coppin.
For.
Mr. Griffey. Mr. Moore. Mr. Reed. Mr. Smith.
Okay, motion carried. Now, next meeting is June what?
13th.
June 13th. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?